Welcome back to the MannCave Unfiltered, a place where family, faith, and freedom meet. I'm your host, Mannis, and today we're diving into a fun but powerful question. What role did faith play in the founding of our nation? Now don't worry, this isn't going to be like a high school history lecture. I'll talk about some real stories, some lesser known facts, and maybe a few jokes on what George Washington would really think if he saw TikTok today. No, that's what I want to get down to. Let's just take a moment, pull it all back, and look at what created our nation. What did the founding fathers intend? Let's not twist it. Let's not try to make it something it's not. Let's look at the letter of the law. Let's not make it more than it is. Let's not expand the scope. It was purposefully limited. With that being said, grab your coffee or sweet tea if you're like me and you're from the South. Let's get this episode started. You've probably seen the painting of Washington kneeling in the snow at Valley Forge. Some people call it legend, but whether that exact scene happened or not, you and I will never know. But there is one thing, there is no denying that George Washington leaned on prayer throughout most of his life. It was something he leaned upon, so much so that he wrote this. And it says, "It is impossible to rightly govern the world without God and the Bible." Imagine if our president came out and said that today. What do you think would happen? I personally think half of the mainstream media would vilify him. Say it's ridiculous. There's no place for religion in our country. Separation of church and state. While the other half would probably fully support him. Look at him and hold him up, champion him, and just tell him how great of a decision that is. And what's sad is we've got to that point that's too far extremes. From the beginning, there was a group of men that had very similar ideals. And as far as what I read from the majority of our founding fathers, they believed Christian ideals. And it wasn't just Washington. Let's look at the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson wrote these words: "Endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights." Now, for purpose here, Creator is spelled with a capital C. That's done by purpose. That's done for a reason. And I feel that's because he's not saying the government, nor a king, nor a figurehead, or some person in power gave you those rights. He said God gave you those rights. And that one line alone has set America apart for the majority of history. The majority of our time as a nation. That's what made us us. Made us Americans. Made us the shining light on the hill that so many other countries followed, that many countries want to model after. But one man put it even plainer. John Adams. He said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." There it is. The Constitution was made for people that had moral and religious standing. The men knew at that time you cannot make a country as nuanced, as complicated, as confusing as America without having some base morals to be built upon. And those are Christian ideals, Christian morals. There was right and there was wrong. There was no blurring of the lines. There was no spectrum. There was no social construct. It's pretty simple. And that's what's formed the DNA of our country, the DNA of America. It's faith woven into our freedom. Before we go any further, if you're watching the video version of the podcast, I want to welcome you guys in. Hello. Good to see you. Welcome back. This is the audio version. I'm trying to describe it as much as I can. But if you see me on video, I'm wearing a suit. And I've never worn a suit for the show yet, but it's kind of a cool little change up. I'm talking about the founding fathers and every painting, everything you've ever seen of them, they seemed very proper. They seemed well put together, dressed a little bit nicer. Well, I had an interview today, so which normally is I do, as a lot of other people do, you dress to impress. So as I put on this, I was thinking, you know what? When I'm done, let's sit down, record this episode, and let's look a little bit nicer while we talk about some of the founding fathers, the men that helped build the nation that I so freely enjoy to this day. And there's a lot of things people come and say here and that, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun. Let's talk about some maybe some lesser known founding father stories. Last episode I brought up Benjamin Franklin in prayer. So I wanted to build upon that and to actually tell you what he said. Now, Benjamin Franklin was not a poster child for piety. He was not known for his religious values. He was not known as a super religious person. At that time, whenever a lot of things were being decided at the Constitutional Convention, he shocked pretty much everybody by saying this: "Gentlemen, I move that we pray." Imagine today. How much of a shocking thing would it be if someone that you knew wasn't that religious, didn't seem to share religious opinion, come to you and a group of people and ask you to pray? What would you say? I would probably have some concern and pray with them, because if it's bringing someone that I've never known to be religious to ask for prayer, to pray together, it must be pretty serious. It's like someone you've known openly atheist your whole life comes to you and asks you for prayer. What are you going to do? I hope that, and I pray that I have the mind to pray for that person, that I can earnestly, with my whole heart, pray for them right then and there, that they've asked, that maybe this trial that they're going through, maybe this thing that they're dealing with, they could have some help. That's one thing that I hope to be able to do one day. And even further, we have Thomas Jefferson, a man who had unusual views. He seemed like a nuanced man. He had slaves and everything, but from what I wrote, from what I've read, apparently he was favorable to some and not to others, and he was a complicated man, as were the majority of our founding fathers. But he made his own Bible, known as the Jefferson Bible. And what he did was he went out and he cut out miracles. He removed the miracles from the Bible and left the moral teachings of Jesus. So in that aspect, you may say he doesn't believe that these miracles could have happened. Doesn't believe it. But the morals of Jesus were so profound and they were so heavy that he kept them. He was basically the first DIY Bible editor. He didn't use an app, didn't use copy paste. He used some scissors. And the fact that that man knew that the morals that the Bible carried speaks so much to today. Though you may not believe the Bible, you may not believe in Jesus, and for your sake, I hope and pray that maybe someday you would find your way to Jesus. I'd hope that maybe we can all agree that the morals are agreeable. We should be doing those things from a basic level. Now, one side of the aisle is going to say, okay, we have to do it to everybody regardless of citizenship. The other one's going to say, no, we can't. And that's where we can disagree. But we can agree, at least for myself, all citizens are afforded certain unalienable rights as citizens of our country, not visitors. But I digress. We have James Madison, often, touted as the father of the Constitution. Did you know he was a religious man? Shocker, right? But he was so religious that he believed that it was the foundation for public virtue. So much so, he said this: "We have staked the whole future of American civilization upon, not upon the power of government, but upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves according to the 10 Commandments of God." To me, that's very clear. To me, that's telling us that our future, that the civilization that they were building, America, was not built for non-believers. It was not built without some base ideals. If you take the 10 Commandments and you live by them every day, we wouldn't have the issues as a society if we all pledged and vowed to not break any of the 10 Commandments. We would live in a very healthy society, in my opinion. There would not be the desire to commit crime. There would not be the desire to falsify. There would be not the desire to lie. You wouldn't have adultery. You wouldn't have idolatry. You wouldn't have the desire for drugs, alcohol. But we don't have that now. And the first thing a lot of these people are going to say is, well, were they perfectly devout churchgoers? Did they attend every meeting? Did they attend every mass? No. No, they didn't. They were human just as you and I. They had their vices. They had their demons. They all had differences. They all went to different churches. They did not all go to the same church. Nearly all of them recognized that for this country to succeed, that faith was essential to freedom. And without the basis of those religions, there would not be a more perfect union, a society that could grow, develop, and change. That was all still pretty heavy stuff. But let's have a little bit of fun here. Let's imagine if some of these founding fathers were alive today. What would they say? You know, we have George Washington. I'd picture him standing there, hand in his vest, overlooking some vista. You know, contemplating where he is now. You know, 1 minute you're in 1778 or 1780, whatever. Next minute you're in 2025. Taking it all in. I could see him sitting there and he'd look over. Somebody sitting there complaining on Facebook, right? He'd just look at him and go, "We fought a revolution over taxes. But now you sit here and complain about gas prices on TikTok." There were no keyboard warriors in the day. The closest thing to a keyboard warrior was posting editorials in their local newspapers. And that took a little bit of effort. You couldn't just press enter on a keyboard and let it go. You had to get to a printer to put it in the press. But imagine Benjamin Franklin. A very wise man, from what I read. A very smart man, from what most of us read. He invented many things. But could you imagine him sitting there and watching someone do something on TikTok? He would just look at them and say, "Hey, I invented bifocals. something that's used to this day. I invented the lightning rod. But all you guys can seem to do is invent filters for TikTok. I think, in a way, Benjamin Franklin would be unamused. It's creative, but it's not innovative. And he was trying to be an innovator. Make things that were beneficial. Is that filter on TikTok beneficial? I don't think so. Not for me personally. Have I used filters? Yeah, I have. Then we have Thomas Jefferson, who was a very creative person. I believe he was a beautiful architect. Designed his home at Monticello. I believe he helped design the original White House. He was walking through the square and looked around. How many faces would he find like this? Looking at a phone. I feel he'd look around and he'd say, when I wrote about the creator, I didn't mean your iPhone. I didn't mean this. And I will say I am guilty of you letting this rule my life. Become very important to me. I spend more time swiping on apps than I do actually reading my Bible. And I have 2 Bible apps on my phone. I'd much rather sit and swipe through, look at the news, argue with people on the internet, or try to have a conversation with someone that I'll never even meet, and take time to reverence the Lord, reverence our Creator. But too often has this become an idol in our lives. This is the greatest tool. It's also the biggest waste of time. And I'm guilty of that myself. And here we have John Adams. Well, we read a very religious man, from what I've seen. The first vice president, the second president of these United States of America. He'd probably just shake his head, especially after the times we've been through as of late, and say, I told you this Constitution only works with a moral people. And you guys have proved my point. The fact that we couldn't agree that murder was bad and shouldn't happen because you disagree with somebody was really telling. We can laugh and we can sit here and go back and forth on who we think may have said this, may have said that. The what ifs, right? I personally feel that our founding fathers would be both proud and worried. I think they'd be proud of where the country still is existing. That freedom is still the primary goal of our lives. I think they would be worried because the very fundamentals of our country, of the country that they built, has been eroded away. It's no longer present. We've drifted far from faith. What they knew was needed to make this country last, to make it successful. So here's the big takeaway, right? Our founding fathers weren't perfect men. No one is. And they were far from it. But they understood something is timeless. Freedom won't last without faith, without consistency, and without Christian values. Washington prayed. Franklin called for prayer. Jefferson pointed to a creator. Adams said our Constitution depends on morality and religion. And that foundation matters today just as much as it did then, if not more. But it's not up to Jefferson. or up to Washington. It's up to us. And that begins in our homes, in our churches, in our communities. We can build that foundation, because if we don't start there, how can we ever try and make a more perfect union? If we do all that right in our communities, we can help carry the torch of faith and of freedom to be a light to those around us. I want to leave you with this. It's going to be in Psalms chapter 33, verse 12. Blessed the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he chose for his inheritance. And that's as true now as it was in 1776. Thanks for tuning in to MannCave Unfiltered. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, leave a rating, and most importantly, keep the faith, keep loving your family, and keep being proud of this great country we call home. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow us over on X, @It's MannCave, Facebook, and Instagram, and TikTok. No, Facebook and Instagram both @It's MannCave, TikTok @MannCave. And just share us. If you enjoying the conversation, go to discord.mancavemedia.com. That's discord.manncavemedia.com. Guys, want to join the newsletter? Newsletter goes out every Friday, as this episode goes live every Friday at noon Central Time at newsletter.mancavemedia.com. Also, check it out on mancavemedia.com. You'll see every episode there, every video. Find us there. Enjoy it. Come hang out. Say hello. Until next time, God bless you. God bless America. Let's just have a better tomorrow. See you then.